Hello everybody! In today's video, we're going to be unboxing 7 Bachmann HO scale 12-ton vans for the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends universe. Now this unboxing is a little late in coming because this rolling stock was actually a Christmas gift in 2024, and we just haven't had a chance to unbox it because we've been doing our layout over, and we haven't had a layout up until just recently to run the rolling stock after we do the unboxing. So now our layout is operational, and so we're going to do the unboxing, and then we'll show you what they look like on the railroad. Now what we're going to be unboxing here today are brand new releases, really. They came out in about November 2024, in time for Christmas. And so we have the 12-ton van Funfair Red. We have 2 of those. We have the 12-ton van Funfair Blue, 2 of those. And then we have the 12-ton van in gray here. And then we have the 12-ton van with the Christmas wreath decoration. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the unboxing. So as we look at the packaging there, you can see it's just marked rolling stock. And then as he turns it to the back, you'll see right here, this is where you kind of know what you're buying. There's the item number, 12-ton van in Funfair Red. I know we comment on this just about every time we do an unboxing, man, but that blister packaging, that hard shell kind of plastic packaging is tough stuff. And those are just packed very well. See that? It's sitting in its own kind of molded sleeve there. Or molded shell. And it drops right out. And we'll just get a quick look at it before we put it on the track. Alright, there we go. All the 12-ton vans are unboxed and sitting on the bench here. So all of these vans are all the same molding. It's just the paint job that makes them different. So what we'll do is we'll pop one up on the turntable. We'll take a close look at that. And then we'll show all the different variations just in a real quick turn before we take them out onto the layout and see how they look. So for these 12-ton vans that Bachmann just put out in November-ish of 2024. They're a retooling of their 12-ton van, and we'll take a look at the previous version a little bit later on. But there are some differences here. On the old 12-ton van, it was a double door on the side, and this has a single door here. So we'll just kind of go through the features. I think the first thing you'll notice on the Funfair version anyway is this really nice paint job. So you've got the red kind of in the corners here, and then you've got the yellow kind of in the body and the door. And then you've got this white diagonal striping that has a red, yellow, blue, yellow, red, kind of alternating stars. So it's quite a nice detail. And then you've got the yellow star on the door. And as I said before, you've got the single door here as opposed to the double doors on the older version of Bachmann's 12-ton van. And then down here on the wheels, you've got all that great detailing, like all the brake mechanisms. Like those are non-functioning brake mechanisms, but they look nice from the side. And then you've got this little white paint detail here on the metal wheels there. So that looks kind of cool. And you got the hook and loop couplers, and then as another paint detail here, if you look at the buffers, you'll see the little posts there are painted in white, and then the pads are painted in black. But we'll give this a turn and show you how all that looks. And then you've got like a gray kind of flat roof there. They're really nice looking 12-ton vans. Now the 12-ton van is nothing new here in the Bachmann universe, or the Bachmann Thomas the Tank Engine universe rolling stock. The 12-ton vans were just ubiquitous in British railways, primarily in the 20s and 30s and so forth. You know, super common. You can see lots of variations of them on, you know, if you look for images on Google. So you'll see lots of variations. So these are really great representations of the 12-ton van. So why don't we give it a turn? By the way, if I didn't mention it earlier, it's about 4 inches long from coupler tip to coupler tip, and they have hook and loop couplers just like the rest of the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends universe. All right, looking from the back, you've got this horizontal kind of corrugated view here, or corrugated texturing here on the back, and then you've got a single vent in the upper center of the rear here. And that is different than the previous version of the 12-ton van, which has double vents, one on kind of bilateral on each side. So that is another visual difference on these vans. So there's a nice view from the end. Let's give it another turn. Okay, now what's interesting over here is normally when we do these turns here, the sides usually look identical to each other, but notice here they don't. The paint job is a little bit different. So in the paint job, the red was in the upper corner. On this side, the red part of the paint job is in the lower corner here, and then the yellow extends up. Up and wide here at the top. Why don't we just give this a turn just real quick, just so we can see the difference. So take a look at that part of the paint job, then as we turn it, you'll see here a little bit different. You can see the red is actually in the upper corner here. So, all right, let's bring it back. Yeah, mold-wise, there's nothing new on this side here. You've got some nice corner bracing details here with some rivet work, and you've got what I believe are would be in real life wooden slats here for the side walls, and then you've got some nice hardware details on the door. The door's non-functioning; it's just stamped into the plastic, but still some nice details are stamped into that plastic. So let's give it another turn. Check out the other end. Now I think this is where I can say in confidence that the ends are identical. There's nothing different about these. You've got the red paint job. That red paint job on the end, or the shade of red they're using on the end here, matches the shade of red on the sides there. But I think you can see down here that nice detailing there with the paint job on the buffer kind of posts, I guess, and the buffer pads in black, posts in white, pads in black. So yeah, let's take a look at the top. Oh, let's bring it around full circle, actually. All right, so there's a complete 360 there. Let's take a look at the top and the bottom. So looking at the top here, nothing special. This is just that kind of curved roof over the top of the van, and this is kind of in a flat, light gray. All plastic construction, by the way, except for those wheels. The wheels are metal. Make a nice sound on the track. But yeah, just to give you a quick look at that roof. All right, let's take a look at the bottom. All right, looking at the bottom here, there's no real modeling detail to speak of. You know, there's no like floor slats from below or anything like that. Just the metal wheels, the axles here, just to take a look at the delicate spring work in the coupler. And then you can see the white stamping here, the part number or item number here in white, and then the trademark information up above. So just to give you a look at the bottom, there are some access screws down here as well. All right, let's just give it another quick uninterrupted 360. All right, very nice. So for the rest of the vans, we'll just give a quick 360 on the blue color, just so you can see that, the funfair blue. We'll do a 360 on the 12-ton gray, and we'll do a 360 on the 12-ton with the wreath decoration, just so you can kind of see the different paint patterns. All right, next up is funfair blue. And next up is the 12-ton van in gray. And lastly, the Christmas wreath. One paint detail on the Christmas wreath van here is notice that the vent is painted silver on top of the red backing there. And let's hold there and zoom in on that Christmas wreath detail there. That's a great looking detail. Okay, before we hit the layout here with our new 12-ton vans, let's just take a look at the older version of the 12-ton van side by side with the newer version. So on the right is the gray version of these new 12-ton vans that we just unboxed, and you can see the primary differences here from the end view is that the new vans have the single vent in the center, whereas the older one, on the blue one on the left, has the double vents kind of bilaterally on each side. And then the newer van, the gray, has that kind of horizontal corrugated look to it, or texture to it, whereas the van on the right has that bracing. It has the vertical bracing and then the diagonal bracing on each side, with also the horizontal, what would look to me like it's trying to emulate like wood slats there on the end. And then a comparison on the side view. So the newer one, as we pointed out earlier, has that single door on the side, and then the older version has the double door and also this kind of bracing here. I think a little bit more detail on the older one with the bracing and rivet work and so forth, but there is rivet work on this, on the corner bracing. This has kind of wider corner bracing, whereas this has narrower corner bracing. I'm sure they're true representations of their real counterparts. So it's not a criticism of the reproduction here. It's just pointing out the differences. Yeah. Oh, the other difference is that the older version here has the little gutter work over the door. I don't know if you can see it in the video or not, but there's like a little curve. We've pointed this out in past unboxings and reviews of these rolling stock items here. But this has like a little curved gutter to kind of shed the water to either side of the door. Presumably while the workers are loading and unloading. The new version does not have that. Now, it could be that the version this is emulating didn't have that in real life, so that would be perfectly fine. But just again, just pointing out differences, definitely not criticism. These all look great, and I think they have a good amount of detail, again, for the price point. Now, speaking of price point, these new vans, I don't know what we paid around Christmas time for these when they first got released, but looking on various websites today, they look to be going somewhere between the $30 and $40 range for each one. So that's your price point right there. But yeah, I think they look pretty good for the price point. So now let's take them out on the layout and see how they actually run.